with Springfield Elements Academy Jiu-Jitsu. Just going to give a couple minutes here to get to 5 o'clock for recording purposes for people to join in. But I'll kind of tell you what we're working on today. So today we're actually going to be working on two kind of unorthodox mount escapes. So again, we've been working on bottom guy mounted and where you should be keeping your hands, what you shouldn't be doing, what you should be thinking about. And so today we're going to go with a couple of somewhat unorthodox positions or options from this position. So let's get started. The first position that I want to show from the mount is when your opponent kind of gets higher up on you. So we've got Bob here. And remember, if you want a dummy and you're in the area, we have some at the Springfield location for you guys. I don't know what they cost exactly, but if you're interested in them for you or your family, George Burns is the one to contact. He can get you guys some dummies, both adult size and child size. Okay. So, like I said, we're going to talk about some unorthodox ideas here when it comes to being mounted or movements. But before we discuss that, let's talk about a quick option for the high mount. So one of the things that we worry about when we are mounted is our opponent getting their knees way up here. And now this position is, my arms are flared out. I don't have a good frame, maybe even like way up underneath here, and I don't have a good frame like this. All right. So what I'll usually do, just like I've done in the past, is you want to try to, you can't push this person down, right? I can't just lift them up and push them down. So I want to try to wiggle up the body, okay? This is just a basic, oh, you messed up, they're up real high. So I put my hands together, just sort of in like a prayer kind of position, but up against their waist. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just drive back with my hands until my whole body moves down. And I'm going to use the connection that I made to move down. Now I'm able to go into all the other moves we did before, where I was shrimping out or, stepping out or what, like any of those moves that we did before, grabbing the leg, pushing the leg through, whatever. So that's what we want to do. Now, let's say I'm in a position where I can't do that. So this is for me, this always works. But again, body types are different, and we want to take into consideration different body types. So what's the move that I would do if I were high mounted like this and I didn't have this as an option? I didn't have pressing the hips. Like they cleared all this room here. I couldn't wiggle away. I couldn't create that space and wiggle up. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure they're as high on me as I can get them. All right. So I'm going to take my hands and I'm going to underhook or a C-cup underneath their armpits. And I'm really going to push them up as high as I can get them. All right. The higher, the better, because my next move is I'm going to roll up. Now, this is a move I absolutely 100% cannot do. All right. So I'm going to do, the dummy is going to be sort of my bottom guy in this scenario. So I'm the guy, or you're the guy on the bottom, right? You're getting high mounted like this. So you just lean into it. You take it by the armpits and you drive them forward. So they're really, really up high. All right. So that's the first step. Once they're up high like that, it takes away a lot of their attacks and gives you the opportunity to come up with your legs. And this is part of the reason why I have trouble with this, because I can't fold myself in half very well. And Bob here, he's, a dummy. So it's not going to hurt him to fold past what might be his flexible range of flexibility. Okay. So I'm up here like this. I got real high on the guy, right? He puts his hands in my armpits and launches me forward like this. So now I'm real far forward. Okay. So what Bob's gonna do is he's actually gonna roll up the legs like this. And there's a lot of people in jiu-jitsu are flexible enough to do this, get their legs all the way up here like this. Because if you'll notice, if I was down low like this wouldn't work, right? If he tried to throw his legs up, I'm on top of his hips. So I just have to settle his hips down like this. But if I'm up a little higher, my hips there's more difficult for me to settle the hips down. And then even more so, he gets underneath my armpits and tosses me up. Now I'm up on the chest. So there's a lot of flexibility in that core region here to be able to fold yourself up if you already have that flexibility, okay? So he's gonna throw his legs up like this. And what that's gonna look like when it's all said and done is something like this. So I'm gonna be here like this, and they're gonna throw their legs up like this, okay? So from here, it's actually quite easy for the guy on the bottom to sort of extend out, and then usually the top guy will lean to one side or the other, and then we'll fall over, and we'll be like this. Okay, so see how both of my legs are on the inside in this position, and both of Bob's legs are on the outside. All right, and that's where you want to end up. Okay, and if you just keep rolling over like this, then we're also in a good position because Bob's legs are on the outside and my legs are on the inside. Okay, so just to kind of show that one more time. So I'm mounted on Bob like this. I'm doing some stuff. I get real up high like this, and I'm taking away all the space like this. So he puts his hands in my armpits, and usually, you'll start here and then you just extend up. Don't try to push me up this way, try to push me up this way. And when you do that, I end up way out here, okay? Then when I'm way out there, your guy, Bob here, is gonna throw his legs up like so. He's gonna get here, and then he's gonna push one leg and it's gonna fall over. We're gonna end up kind of like this. Okay, so now Bob has this position on me. And from here, it's actually real easy to control a foot and do some leg entanglement stuff, okay? So I'll show you what that looks like from the other position. So now we've swept him over and our legs are in here like this, right? So I'm gonna keep one leg. I'm gonna keep them both actually. And I'm gonna push this leg out to get this knee in, and then boom, I'm in Ashigarami. Just like we went over yesterday with one of our escapes. Now I'm in Ashigarami again. And I can go for that straight ankle lock on this outside foot here. And I can finish that with that straight ankle lock, and I'm good. And remember, if you're in this position, it's okay, because you can go to those other positions. Now I will say, or those escapes that we talked about yesterday. Now I will say that this also can lead to more dangerous positions that are a bit more advanced positions. So when you're rolling with somebody who's a bit higher up and they want to go to these leg entanglement positions, there are definitely more dangerous positions. So if I'm here like this, I could push this leg through and go here, and notice it's different in this situation. This foot isn't out here and I'm not turning here. This foot went through and I'm here like this. And And this is a real dangerous position because there's a heel hook right here. And if I wanted to, that's actually a really powerful way to finish somebody with that, what we call the reverse, the reverse heel hook. So this can turn into a leg locker's dream if you become a leg locker, if that's the direction that your skills take you towards. All right, and I will say a lot of leg lockers usually have leaner legs. They can be short or long, but it's really just about like how well that control happens with the legs. You know, are you good at keeping this in tight? Like this would be, you know, tight ashigarami, or are you better at getting that foot inside? So you'll notice this is the foot entanglement that I'm doing right now. My foot went inside. I'm figure fouring on this foot, or I'm even just like, I'm just hiding this foot in here like this. You can't see it very well. So that foot goes there, and then this foot cups underneath. And I can even use this foot to even help control this leg if I wanted to. Like if I was holding this, I could hold this here like this and make that, you know. So like there's a lot of stuff that I'm not gonna go over, but again, you just need to be aware that it's possibly there. So if this is the path that you eventually take, then knowing that that's available can be good for later on. But I will say this, if you decide to compete in jiu-jitsu, at the lower levels, this is illegal. Okay, that's why this move here, the ashigarami, is the better move in terms of a tournament or whatnot, because the other move is considered illegal. So doing this move, this is going to be better for you, for your points, and for your so you don't get disqualified. Because a lot of people get disqualified when they're in these leg entanglement positions. So just to be aware of that, if that's something that you eventually decide to do, take this to a competition and see how well you can do. So so again, you end up here like this, and you want to control both of these legs. It's very important you control both these legs, because if I let one of them go, my opponent might be good enough to, you know, slide a leg out or do you know, there's a couple of things that your opponent can do. So you want to control these legs till you decide which one you don't want, and then you drop that foot down, get that foot through, and then focus on the one side. And that's how I would deal with would go for that. Okay, so that's our first one of the day. All right, that's like I said, kind of an unorthodox way to get out of it, to get out of mount, because it requires someone in high mount. Now here's another unorthodox idea that Coach Warren Brooks, who was our one of our liaison coaches for a while out of Portland's American Top Team, with Professor Fabiano Scherner, who is our head professor, black belt in all of this. He likes unorthodox leg attacks. So if you were on your back, or if he was on your back, there's a leg attack there, and I'll show that when we get to back mount in like 2 weeks, I think. But this one's from bottom mount. So he loves these ankle attacks that kind of come out of nowhere, and so that's what I'm going to teach you there. Okay. So in this scenario, this works best in a tournament, submission grappling tournament, or something like that. A regular fight, this will probably would be more of a long shot, but when you don't have to worry about punches, it's definitely a very useful technique. Okay, so the focus is going to be on the bottom half here. All right, we're not going to worry so much about what we're doing up here, other than, you know, just generally defending. Okay, so your opponent on top of you has his feet grapevine under you like so. All right, so you're going to pick a side, and I'm going to pick my my left side here, and I'm going to drop the leg down like I'm going to do a regular, you know, oh, I need to get to my side, right? But instead, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to pop this foot up over my leg like so. right? And then I'm gonna lift that foot up till I can successfully grab it. There we go. Now I've successfully grabbed that foot, okay? And then I can lock it in place like so, right? And then I grab around the body and I extend like this. So I kind of push this hip down and lift this foot up. So it kind of goes hip down and foot up. And essentially what you're doing is you're stretching the tendon on top of the foot for the guy on top. So like I said, I'm losing this match. He's got good control. There's short time left. I need to figure out something. Even if I swept this guy, I'm going to lose this match. So I want to figure out a way to submit him. All right. So again, he's grapevine in here, holding my legs. So I'm going to kick one out, get it flat. Then I'm going to use, so now I'm flat here, right? So I'm going to use this heel to bring this up onto my leg, like so, and I'm going to lift it up till I can grab it. And then once I can grab it, then I can hold it in place long enough to get this locked over like that. Now his foot is stuck. There's no way of getting that foot out of there like that. And then from here, I'm going to grab around the body because there's nothing he can do. So I don't have to worry about any of those other attacks that might happen if I do grab around the body. And I'll show those in a minute why you don't want to do that. Because knowing what to do is one thing, knowing what not to do or be inclined to do is another. Okay. So now that I've got this foot, I can actually grip around him like this. And then, like I said, I can extend this foot down and lift this. So I'm extending this down and I'm lifting this up. And I'm basically taking the foot, and so if this is the foot, I'm actually pushing into the foot. The foot's extended out like this as far as it'll go. And then I'm actually pushing this way on the back of the leg and then this way on the top. So I'm really hyperextending the top of that foot. And like I said, this is one of Professor Warren Brooks' one of his ankle attack moves that works real well. And so there are people, such as, a lot of big guys, we don't mind having people on top of us, mainly because it's very hard to submit us from the top because of how big we are. And because, like, you'll notice that when someone's on top of us, even Bob here, he has trouble keeping both knees on the mat at the same time. And even if I were small enough that he could do that, he would still have difficulty balancing on top of me. And so I can unbalance somebody pretty easily just by kind of rocking back and forth on my hips. So this is a good move for bigger guys such as myself, if I can get that, if I can pull that foot up like I just showed you. But it's also real good, like I said, for a situation where, you've just been, you're a person who's just, you're aggressive, and your aggressivity has made it so that you are in a scenario where you're about to lose. Like, you were trying to be aggressive, they passed your guard. You're trying to be aggressive, they mounted you. Now they have 6 points. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points. Now they have 9 points, and there's a minute left in the match. So what are you going to do? You can't, it's going to be real hard for you to get all those points back in your match. So you got to figure out a way to submit them. And this is a real tricky way to submit somebody. Because, again, once you get this leg down here like this, right, they think, oh, he's going to try to pass me. Then you scoop this foot up onto your leg, right? Once you scoop this foot up onto your leg, it's kind of trapped there, right? Their leg is extended out. They don't have any power to get it off. So what most people might try to do is they might actually try to unmount you, dismount you by coming over like this and be in this weird position like this half, almost like half side control position, right? But, and that could work, but their foot is so out of position here. It's real easy to just, grab that foot, reposition this in that position, and then use that to come up and finish from that position, right? And if they try to remount you, if you can at least get to here, right? If I can get to here, this is all I need. Once I'm here, I can pull them back on top of me, and even if they're not completely on top of me, I can still push down and extend up and get the right torque on their foot, right? So you can get that foot, you can get it high, and then you can get this figure forward underneath here. That's going to be that's going to be a submission. Now, again, you'll notice it's not a very complicated submission. It's from the bottom, and it's actually pretty natural. Okay, so again, somebody's grapevining me, right? Turn my leg a little bit more, please. So someone's grapevining me, like so, all right? And I'm defending like I would. I'm gonna keep my arms down, don't wanna get choked, whatever, it's good. So I'm gonna act like I'm gonna go for push the knee down, try to strip away by extending this leg down until I can get it out. Then I use that heel there because they're most likely trying to keep me hooked here. I'm gonna use that heel to get that on my foot. Now they're trapped. If I can get this far, they should be trapped. So once I'm here, I just need to find their foot. And once I found their foot, hold it in place, get it real tight, and then I go from here. Once I'm here, this is where you can get confused about how to finish it. And I completely understand that because it can be kind of weird. But like essentially what you're doing is you're trying to extend the foot up while extending the leg down. So you're actually, hipping up while at the same time pushing down with this outside thigh. So this side goes down, and then you hip up, and that extends the foot to finish the submission. Okay, so that's a situation where you're in a tournament or something like that, and you need a move. You need a move. You're in a bad position. You need a move. And I will have a bad position move like that for everybody. So it should be it should be kind of in the back of your head, even if you're not perfect at it. Should be like, oh yeah, there's that leg lock from there that I can do, and so I'll plan that attack, and I'll actually come at that leg lock and see how it goes. And worst case scenario, you go for it, you don't get it figured out, time's up, you're done, whatever, because you're already losing. Why not go for something if you're already losing in points, So that's kind of my philosophy, especially in that scenario. Okay. So the last thing I want to go over today is the Ezekiel choke, because that is something that can definitely be done from the grapevines, and it definitely is something that you kind of have to worry about and address a little bit before you get too far ahead of that move. So like, let's say your opponent is mounting you. Okay, so I'm gonna try to get the head so you can kind of see a little more of the head. There we go. We'll go this back just a little bit. There we go. So again, when you're on mount, there are a few chokes you can do, as I said before, and some of them work best if you can be up a little bit. But the Ezekiel choke is actually a sleeve choke that you can do when you're in strong on somebody. So when you're mounting on somebody and you got those grapevines into their legs, you're gonna grab their head like a headlock. All right. Now the thing you have to worry about here is the upa. So if I put this arm here and he grabs my arm and holds it in place, he can bridge and roll me over the shoulder pretty easily. I don't have a base over here. So I'm going to counter that by bringing my base off to the side here. All right, so I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna be here. Okay, then I'm gonna grab this sleeve, fingers inside, like this. So fingers inside my own sleeve, and it looks like this. So if I have the head, the fingers go inside like this. All right. So when I'm here, my next step is I'm going to bring this hand over. All right. And sometimes when you do this, the hand by itself doesn't quite make it. Like maybe it runs into the jaw. So you got to go with a fist. And once you're in there with a fist, you can make the can opener, just the thumb points out a little bit, and you can drive it in. And there are two variations of this move. One is on the same side. So I go inside and I extend and I push into the throat, which I'll show in a second. Or the other one is once I get across, this hand turns into a knife hand and I come down like this and extend. And that's another version of your Ezekiel choke. So it really depends on how much space you're getting or how much torque you're exerting on your opponent. And when you're on bottom, this is a very uncomfortable scenario. So make sure to be extra aware of what's going on. Okay. So again, I'm under the head. I'm out here and posted, and I'm out like this. Then I'm going to reach and grab my own sleeve and go inside. Now in this scenario, my opponent doesn't give me that hand across. They're being very tight inside, and I can't quite get that hand across. So I'm going to go fingers inside. Remember the can opener, the way the thumb points out. I'm going to go inside till I can get it. Then I'm going to shore this up a little bit on this side, and I'm going to drive. I'm actually going to pick this elbow up, and I'm going to drive, and I'm going to kind of push with my shoulder. So it's all this one sort of drive with the shoulder, push with this hand in, and squeeze everything together. So without it, kind of looks like, so I'm driving with the shoulder here, and I'm pushing in with that there. And that's going to give you your one version of your Ezekiel choke, okay? Now again, the other version of Ezekiel choke requires you to come across the body. Sorry, across the neck. So I'm here, I grab this, I come inside, and actually get all the way across. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to, again, shore that up. So when I say shore that up, I mean my arm, while it's really nice to be deep here, doesn't give the same tightness once I get my sleeve as it does for me to pull this arm out this way. So I go from real tight here to pulling this out. And again, the reason why I do that is because I need to make this side tighter. So I make this side tighter by shoring that up, by pulling that arm out, and then I make this side tighter by driving the shoulder down. Now with the hand in Ezekiel choke, I don't need to do all that, okay? All I need to do there is, because this hand comes across. So what I'm making here is I'm actually making my triangle, all right? And a concept about chokes in all of jiu-jitsu is that you need a triangle shape to choke, okay? Because you need one that goes across the one artery and one that goes across the other artery, and then you need one that goes across the back. So with gi jiu-jitsu, the gi acts as the back part most of the time, right? But if you're just doing regular chokes like the mataleo, the rear naked choke, again, my arm makes the two carotid artery parts. So forearm and bicep are the two carotid artery parts. And then the back of my hand makes the third side. Doing an arm triangle, same thing. My bicep makes one side, the back of my arm makes the other, and then my head, coupled with my opponent's shoulder, makes the third, okay? So the Ezekiel choke is definitely something that you want to watch out for when you're being mounted. Now the nice thing is that if you can defend against it, your opponent has to pull out completely and reset before you can do anything about it. And if you can sort of stop them from doing it, then it'll actually be a good time to potentially upa or even do some of your other things. Okay, so with the triangle choke, or sorry, with the Ezekiel choke, my arm goes in and I grab my sleeve right? And then I come inside, I shore that up by pulling it in like this, and then I'm going to extend. And this time I'm going to extend down. So before I was sort of like driving my shoulder in, but this one I'm actually going to extend into my opponent's throat. And what's going to happen is this kind of comes down, and the sleeve of my jacket will make the side that goes along this artery here. And then the back of my arm makes the third side. So that's your 1, 2, 3 for this particular attack here. Now that I've showed you how to do it, and if you want to, like I said, try that at home with your partner or whatever, or if you have a dummy, try to just do it on your dummy. How do you defend against it? Okay. Well, there's a couple of things that that you can start with. First of all, as always, you have to think about. First thing you have to think about is what's coming, right? No one can set up an Ezekiel choke without getting the arm underneath the head, right? So that's the first thing that we know. The Ezekiel choke comes from the arm under the head, okay? And so when you feel that arm coming under your head, you can't just sit there. You can't just relax. You have to go, oh no, he's going for an Ezekiel choke. All right. So one of the best ways that you can defend against this is try to actually get off the center so that he can't grab his sleeve, and so that it recenters you, so you can potentially even oopa them if they're not doing right. Now, a real good Ezekiel choke artist will put their head on the one side so that you can't move it over. But let's see if Bob can help me demonstrate this a little bit. So if Bob has his arm underneath my head, like so, and he doesn't have his head over here, it's real easy for me to grab this shoulder right here and just sort of butt myself to the side like that. And now, not only have I changed the angle for the attack so he can't grab his sleeve, but I have this arm so that if I want to oopa, I can grab that foot like I would before and bridge and roll, taking the guy over, okay? So if you're not paying attention to that first part, then that's gonna be your, where you're gonna be in danger, okay? So again, your opponent gets his arm under your head like this. So what I would do is I would use this hand and create a frame on the inside to keep his head from coming down. Grab this arm, just bump a little bit so that you're twisting on your back. So I bump and I twist. And then now that I'm squared up, his hand may still be underneath my head, but I have his arm here that I'm holding down, not just, now I'm holding it real good and tight up high like this. And then I can bridge and roll and come up and be in mount, which is a far better position than I was before. Okay. So that's going to be your first one. Now your second one is going to be a little tougher. When they finally get the hand across and you weren't paying attention and they get the sleeve inside, right? Your first instinct might actually be to try to put your arm in to defend, right? If I'm here and this guy's here and I didn't see all this, now he's got his sleeve here and he's ready to go. If I stick my hand inside to defend, or if I can even get my hand inside, because this is pretty tight, that's why we grab here and shuffle out that way. If I can get my hand inside and go here, this can be bad because this can turn into what we call a gift wrap. So a gift wrap is anytime your opponent gets his arm here, like this across, and then your opponent can reach around your head and grab your hand. So imagine there's an arm around my head, so the elbow or the armpit's here, armpit's here, around my head this way, and now he grabs my wrist. This is what we call the gift wrap. It's right here. All right, this is seriously one of the most annoying positions to be in, and I've been in it my fair share. So try not to get here. Try not to get to the gift wrap if you can. That'll help it. Now, once the hand comes in, though, you're kind of in, like I said, you're kind of in a bad way. There's unfortunately there's not like a whole lot that you can do except maybe keep the chin down defending. Really try to keep this hand from coming through without allowing him to grab it. So we're not going too deep here. We're just going like this, and then trying to frame on your opponent before they can get in. Because remember that in order to finish this move, they have to drive their shoulder down. So if you can get them away, they can't drive their shoulder down. And you don't want them to get across, because when they get across, that's when you extend. So pushing them away actually helps, right? So if your opponent goes to do the triangle choke and gets you across here like this, really the only way to save yourself is to hug your opponent and pull them down, because they need to extend in order to get, in order to finish that. So that's kind of, it goes against the grain. But if you're, like I said, if your opponent gets all the way there and you hold them down, so, I'm here and they get there and I'm like, oh, I'm dead. If they do the fist in one, I need to make a frame and try to keep them from coming in this way. And if they come across, then they can switch to the extension one, and then I have to pull them back down. So you really kind of got to pay attention to what they're doing to determine what the secondary defense is. All right. Especially if the choke's applied correctly, because you're going to have lots of problems. Lots of problems there. Before I finish today, I didn't have a chance to talk about this, and I'll kind of use that as a jumping off point for next week for potential for the top mount stuff. But one of the things I did tell you not to do when you're in this position is push on the chest. All right, we don't push on the chest because there's an arm bar there. If I'm pushing on your chest like this, I could just let go. I can just lay my hands on your chest and you're holding me up, and I could strike you. Like, that's something you have to worry about. Or in Jiu-Jitsu, I could put my hands on your chest and I can spin and armbar you, right? So putting your hands on the chest is never a good idea. You always want to defend the face. You always want to defend the chokes. You always want to create frames and space, but you never want to extend out. Similarly, if your opponent's on top of you and you don't know what to do, hugging them is not a good idea either. And I say that for two reasons. One, when you hug your opponent, you can't go anywhere, right? You could use a hug for certain things, right? If you, again, you know how I told you to push down on your opponent to get them to move when they're up high? You can also use a different technique. This is one the Gracies use, where they actually grab up here and they pull and wiggle at the same time. So if you can't get your hands inside, that's perfectly fine. But once you're here, you don't want to just like switch to a hug, because it's real easy to cross face here and put that pressure on you. And now my jaw's to the side, and now he's got control of that as I'm trying to hug you, and they can pop themselves out. And now this arm's hanging here and they can attack this arm. And so there's all kinds of reasons why you don't want to hug. So you always want to keep your hands in tight to defend the punches, to defend the chokes, to defend and to create your frames. Okay. And I'll show you some of that stuff, in our class next week. Okay. So thank you for coming today. Thank you for watching today. I hope you learned some stuff. If you have any questions, let me know. You can send me a DM or leave a comment on my YouTube video. And it'd be really great to see you guys in the Zoom class so that I can watch you and give you tips or pointers, or if your technique is wrong, I can also help you out with that. So I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you all on Monday.